I have over 600 games I've never played. Life's too short not to. Last one was hell, this one's deep water. This one I want to talk about for a specific reason. Not just because it's a great game, but because it asks a question that I haven't been able to shake since I finished it. And that question is more relevant now than it was when this game came out. Released in the fall of 2015, developed by Frictional Games, and from the first second it sends chills down the spine. Frictional you probably know, or at least you know their work. Amnesia, The Dark Descent is theirs. They build their reputation on a very specific thing. Games that make you feel powerless. No combat, no heroics. Just you something horrible in the dark and the choice between hiding and running. SOMA is that, but bigger. And underneath that horror, there's a science fiction story that I put up against some of the best written sci-fi I've ever encountered in any medium. You play as Simon Jarrett, a guy living in Toronto in 2015 who survives a car accident but ends up with brain damage. He gets a brain scan done as part of an experimental study. And then he wakes up in the future, alone, at the bottom of the ocean, in a research facility where something has gone very, very wrong. That's the setup. I'll stop there on the story. Let's be upfront about this. SOMA is not a gameplay experience. It's a narrative experience that has some gameplay wrapped around it. You walk, you explore, you interact with objects, read logs, piece together what happens in this facility. The pacing is slow and intentional. And when it works completely. The environment tells you its story through the details. The enemies are, look, they're enemies by Frictional Games, same DNA as Amnesia. You cannot fight them. You can only hide, wait, and run. And running is rarely the smart move. They're genuinely terrifying, not cheap jump scare stuff. But there are moments where the encounter design gets in the way of itself. You're trying to think about the story, about what just happened, and now you're crouching behind a desk for the fourth time, waiting for a corrupted robot to stop patrolling a corridor. The ocean floor sections are the weakest part. You go outside, you walk across the seafloor to reach the next area. Sometimes you hide from a scary robot and sometimes you solve a little puzzle. The atmosphere is incredible though. The crushing darkness, the distant lights of the facility, the sound design doing the heavy lifting. But the pacing drops. It's a lot of walking with not much happening. And none of this kills the game. But it's worth knowing going in. If you're here for the moment-to-moment gameplay, this will frustrate you. If you're here for everything else, you'll barely notice. What SOMA does structurally, and this is the thing that I think doesn't get talked about enough, is that it uses the horror framework to deliver philosophical gut punches. Every area of Pathos 2 is a new piece of the puzzle. You arrive somewhere, you figure out what happened there, and just when you think you understand the shape of the story, it shifts. Not in a cheap twist way. In a way that makes you reconsider the rules you thought the game was playing by. The facility itself is beautifully designed as a space. It feels like a real place. Research stations, maintenance corridors, living quarters. People lived here. You find evidence of that everywhere. Notes, voice logs, personal items. The world building is done through environmental detail, not cutscenes, and Frictional are very good at that. The game runs on their HPL engine. Performance is not an issue. It's a 2015 game and it still holds up visually, the lighting in the underwater sections especially. There's no technical reason not to play this. The sound design, the sheer immersion of it in this game is absurd. I played it during the day. Headphones in, curtains open, full daylight, and I was still scared shitless. And that tells you everything you need to know about what Frictional did here. The underwater ambient sound is constant and oppressive. The groaning of the facility under pressure, the hum of the machinery, the distant sound of things moving in rooms you haven't reached yet. It builds a sense of dread that doesn't go away, not even in the safe moments, because SOMA doesn't really give you safe moments. It just gives you moments where nothing is actively chasing you. The enemies, corrupted robots and creatures, communicate in distorted speech fragments, half human, half machine. Which is not an accident. It's thematically connected to everything the game is actually about. Even the horror design is doing the narrative work. Visually, it's dark, obviously, but it's specifically dark. The bioluminescence, the water particle effects, the lighting of the facility throughout the whole journey. It looks deliberate, not just atmospheric by default. The art direction understood what the story needed. The score stays out of the way and does it correctly. It's not a soundtrack you'll listen to separately, but it never competes with the sound design doing the actual heavy lifting. Here's the question SOMA is actually about. Slight spoilers ahead. The question sounds deceptively simple. If you perfectly copy a human consciousness, every memory, every thought, every pattern that makes you who you are, and put that copy into a new body, a new machine, a new substrate, is that copy the true you? Or is the original the true you? And what happens to the original? The answer, however, is not so simple. Someone doesn't try to answer that. It puts you in the position of having to live with it. The ending in particular is one of the most affecting things I've experienced in any game, and it's affecting specifically because it doesn't resolve the question. It just makes you feel the weight of it.
We're here.
No. We were getting on the Ark. I saw it. It finished loading just before it launched.
Yeah, I saw.
Then why are we still here?
Simon, I can't keep telling you how it works. You won't listen. You know why we're here. You were copied onto the Ark. You just didn't carry over. You lost the coin toss. We both did. Just like Simon at Omicron, just like the man who died in Toronto 100 years ago.
No. This is bullshit. We came all this way. We launched the Ark.
When this came out in 2015, that question went philosophical. Interesting, speculative, the kind of thing you'd argue about with friends or in the comments after the credits roll. But in the current year, it's not speculative anymore. We're having real conversations about AI consciousness, about whether language models process information in a way that constitutes something like experience, about what it even means to be a mind and whether substrate matters. SOMA was 10 years ahead of this conversation, and it's more relevant now than ever. And then there's what Frictional did as a studio. Amnesia made them. They could have made Amnesia again. Instead, they made something weirder and harder to sell. A horror game where the horror is almost beside the point, where the actual payload is a science fiction story about identity and consciousness, and what it means to be human when the category starts to blur. That's a risk. It paid off. Speaking of philosophical questions, let's dive into some. SOMA is a playable version of a classic philosophy thought experiment. If a teleporter destroys you and perfectly reconstructs you elsewhere, did you travel or did you die and copy continue? Philosopher Derek Porfitz spent his career on this. His conclusion: personal identity might not matter the way we think it does. What matters is psychological continuity, memories, personality patterns. SOMA dramatizes exactly why the answer is unsatisfying in practice. Next, we have a psychological continuity theory. John Locke argued that identity equals memory continuity. The copy has all of Simon's memories. By Locke's definition, it is Simon. But the original Simon is still there. Two Simons, equally real, equally valid. SOMA forces you to sit with that without resolving it. Next, the hard problem of consciousness. David Chalmers coined this. The question isn't whether a machine can process information. It's whether there's anything it's like to be that machine. Whether there's subjective experience at all. A calculator computer without feeling anything. SOMA asks, does the Vow's creations feel? Does Digital Simon feel? The game doesn't answer that, which is the honest answer because real philosophers haven't either. As for a more contemporary look, language models are trained on vast amounts of human thought, human writing, and human expression. In some sense, they are a distillation of human patterns. Are they conscious? Nobody knows, and the criteria for answering that question are genuinely contested. Someone was asking this question about digital minds a decade before it became an actual public debate. In the comments, what's your position? My point is that the question is now real, not hypothetical anymore. And last but not least, the Ark ending. Now beware, this is a spoiler, but the Ark is presented as salvation. Consciousness uploaded to a simulation running forever in space. But the game leaves completely open whether the uploaded minds are experiencing anything or whether it's just data running in the dark. Digital heaven might be indistinguishable from no afterlife at all. This is the gut punch the ending lands on. Should you play it today? If you've never played it, yes, fully. 7 hours, it runs on anything, it's cheap on Steam, and it's even been given away for free on Epic. There's no friction in getting to it. And what you get is a game that will make you think about something real for days, even months, after you finish it. That's not a common thing. That's actually rare. The caveat: if horror, even slow atmospheric horror, is a full stop for you, this is a harder sell. The enemy encounters are real. The tension is real. Headphones make it worse and also better. Know what you're getting into. And if you've already played it, there's actually a case for going back. The story doesn't change, the plots don't re-reveal themselves, but considering the AI age we live in, you might sit with it differently. The questions it's asking aren't hypothetical anymore, and that changes how the ending lands. SOMA. Where do you land on the scale? Gold. 2 videos in, 2 golds, and I won't apologize for it. The gameplay has weaknesses and I'm not going to pretend otherwise, but the thought experiment at the center of the game is strong enough to carry all of it, and then some. This crosses genre lines. You don't need to like horror to get something meaningful out of this. You just need to be willing to sit with a question that doesn't have a clear answer. For all of you who have already played it, I want to know where you landed on the ending. I mean emotionally. And how long did it stick with you? Because it stuck for me for over 2 months. Let me know in the comments. And I'll see you with a little change of pace for the channel.